Welcome to the Reinvention Show with your host, Carol Wayne. Today, Carol's guests are Gina Eubank, Dr. Karen Jacobson, and Kelly Mellos. I'm your producer, Keith Vachon, and now your hosts, Carol Wayne.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Reinvention Show, the one and only show that entertains, educates, and inspires you on your journey for reinvention. Today, we're talking about reinventing your health. Now, reinventing your health is such an important topic because there are so many people struggling with their health. They've tried all sorts of conventional methods to change their situation, and quite often they work, but sometimes they don't. So today we're going to be talking to three incredible women who've all had health challenges that they took control of and that's changed their lives. So stay tuned, and we're going to have a really great show. First up, I've got Dr. Karen Jacobson. Hey, Karen.
Hi there, Carol.
So Dr. Karen Jacobson, affectionately known as Dr. J, has been serving the community since 1992, sharing her message of health and healing through a variety of print, radio, and television media, including 12 News Long Island, 12 News WKPNX, Cox 7AZ, and KAZ TV and Design Lifestyle Channel. So it's such a pleasure to have you on my show, Karen.
It is my honor, Carol. I'm very excited to be back again.
Yeah, I had Karen on the Women's Reinvention Summit in September and in the very first season of the Reinvention Show, so it's great to have you back. So Karen, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I've got some questions I'd like to ask you.
Perfect. So, since we're talking about health and we've been talking about health challenges, one of the things that as a healthcare provider I believe is important is to really understand where your patients come from and what they might be dealing with. So I guess I took that to the extreme and actually created those experiences for myself so that I can really understand. And this all started years ago when I was a teenager, and I developed a rash that looked like a butterfly, a third-degree burn on my face. And while that was going on, I was in and out of hospitals, and ultimately I was diagnosed with systemic lupus. And for those who may or may not know what systemic lupus is, it's an autoimmune disease. So basically our bodies become enemies to our own tissues. And it is a disease that's considered that there is no cure for it. You can only go into remission. And I spent my high school years, which are supposed to be the best years of our lives, or at least that's what they say, and I spent them hiding from the sun, not exercising, being an outcast, and spending most of my time in hospitals. And ultimately, I came back I was living at Israel at the time, and I came back after I got out of the military service, and I came back to the States. And by chance was at a fitness camp that my father had put on, and ended up back on the balance beam and fitness equipment, gym equipment. I used to do gymnastics when I was younger. And I ended up, fortunately for me at the time, or unfortunately, tearing a hamstring. And by then I had already resorted to the fact that I had to live, with the lupus and deal with whatever. But I made some changes already in my life. I became macrobiotic, and I started exercising again, and I went out to the sun. And when I got to the chiropractor, my father literally put me on a plane, shipped me up to Maine to a sports chiropractor, and with that experience, as I started getting adjusted, things started changing in my life. And all of a sudden, my strength started coming back, and my body started changing. And I ultimately ended up with a complete healing, where when I showed up to the doctor and my blood was completely clear of any antibodies, they looked at me and they said, well, according to the medical profession, I was in remission. And yet at that time in my life, I knew that I was never going back to that place. And that's where chiropractic really became, for me, the key that tied everything together. You know, it was working on the spiritual aspect. It was working on nutrition. It was working on lifestyle. But it was really about making sure that my body and my nerve system were functioning properly to tie everything together. And that's also the reason why it was really my drive and desire to share that with other people.
So how has this healing naturally from your systemic lupus changed your perspective on health and on healing?
Well, you know, having had the experience of being in and out of hospitals and needles shoved in and tests and all sorts of drugs was obviously not fun. And here I was doing things that I was not allowed to do, and really my body was getting stronger. You know, ultimately to the point where I was healthier and stronger than I'd ever been in my entire life. Other things that were affecting me, whether it was migraine headaches or adult onset asthma that I developed, all those things had gone away. And I had more energy, more drive, and better health. And I realized, you know, one of the things that's in chiropractic, we talk about the fact that the power that made the body heals the body. And for me, I experienced that. And there was nothing that I saw that exists in quote unquote the healthcare field that our bodies can't heal.
Well, so what do you mean when you say that all health issues are stress reactions?
I love that question, because that's really something that kind of puts us on the fringe, because I honestly don't believe that we really have pathology and disease. And that goes completely against what the medical profession stands for. Best example, if I told you right now, hey Carol, you're going on air, and the show that you're going to do, you're going to have to do in Spanish. And that might cause you a little bit of stress, right?
Oh, just a bit. Considering I only know about 4 words, and they're probably not appropriate for the show.
Dos cervezas. And so of course you might get your heart might race a little bit, you might get a little clammy, your blood pressure might go up. Normal reaction to stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now what if I told you that you're going to make that presentation, but I'm going to spring it on you somewhere between now and the next 3 months? Could you be walking around, and every time you think about the fact that you're going to have to make that presentation and you don't know when, you might get a little nervous?
Oh, absolutely.
Your blood pressure might go up. Your heart might race. Now it's over a period of 3 months. And that normal stress reaction is now more chronic. So, is it normal to react to something stressful? Absolutely. But once it's a constant in our life, now we call it a disorder or a disease. So whenever there's stress, our body has mechanisms of defense to put us at ease and harmony. And whether it's our adrenals kicking in, with our nerve system kicking in, those all work to help us come out of that situation as in fight or flight. But when that situation is now become chronic, we are in a state of dis-ease or distress on a long-term period of time. Now they gather all the symptoms and they start drugging us and telling us that we have a disease.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
So
now, you're a high-performance coach. So how has your life experiences affected how you help people as a high-performance coach?
You know, when I, in my early 20s, about 21, was pretty much when I walked away completely from the medical side and realized the power of our body. At the same time, I was also working on my emotional health. I got a book at the time. I got You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and I started following a lot of the spiritual movement, the New Thought movement, the self-help movement. Ultimately started studying a lot of NLP, and realized that by combining our mindset with our actions and our health, we can change our life. And because of the fact that when I healed, I felt I got a second chance. And I realized that our body and our life are very precious and they are a gift. And for me personally, I took that to the next level. And if it's a gift and I can do with it what I choose to honor and really create the best. And that's where my drive came from. So that's where I started implementing those things in my life and looking at people around, realizing whether it's the nutrition that we have, let's have a Big Mac. Now, by the way, aside from being a vegetarian, I've never even stepped into any of those places because of the fact that none of that really honors the body. When it comes to our mood and our emotions, we get to choose. I get to wake up in the morning and choose whether it's going to be a good day or a bad day, depending on how I respond to things and events in my life. When I had the lupus, when I had the car accident years later, I could have had a very different response, but I chose to look at them as gifts and as opportunities to change my life and make it better. And I just want to be able to share that with other people and give people the tools to maximize their own potential because it's in all of us.
Right now, those you've just given us two examples, your mindset being very important. Are there any other essentials for living a successful and healthy lifestyle?
So anything that has to do with what we put in the body and what we take out of the body or keep out of the body. So that's going to happen on all levels, whether it's the mindset that we just talked about, putting in positive thoughts and energizing thoughts and keeping out the negative stuff, because out of 60,000 thoughts a day, over 80% of them are generally going to be negative, and that is conditioning throughout history. And so yes, we have to focus on that and bring in those positive things, and whether it's having daily gratitude or whether it's having our eyes open to recognize what is good around us rather than what is bad. Okay? Then it comes to our fuel, which is our nutrition. That would be a second aspect. Making sure that we keep the toxins out and we put the healthy things in. And when I say putting the healthy things in, I don't necessarily mean a list of supplements. I mean real food that is chemical free, that is preferably organic and without hormones, without pesticides, etc. And generally stuff that is fresh and alive, that has not lived in a box on the shelf for the last 4 years. When it comes... Sorry about that. But hey, I found one of those things from an old employee when I moved my offices years ago. A jar of ranch that sat there for over 4 years, and when you opened it up, it still smelled good. Now, somebody might be excited about that. To me, it was scary.
Yeah.
So we're looking at mindset. We're looking at nutrition. We look at the third key, which is fitness, activity. Sitting on the couch is only part of life. It's not all of life. And throughout life, when we look at history, people were always active. That's what kept not only for physical fitness and not only to look good, but for health. And depending on who we are, we'll each have different activities. But as long as we have activities, and as long as we are moving our body and raising our heart rate and creating better cardiovascular health, we're staying alive, because what does not grow dies. So, each person should have their own fitness regime, whether it's, doing Zumba class or Taekwondo. The fourth one is where chiropractic came up for me, and that is our nerve system. Our brain is our master system, and it controls every function in the body. It doesn't matter how much good food I put in if my body cannot process it, or as you might say, process it properly. And that is an essential. That is an essential for function, and it ties in also to mindset because of neuroscience. And neuroscience is one of the largest growing fields today, as well as neuropsychoimmunology. Or, depending on the side that's looking at it, whether it's the neurology side or whether it's the psychology side, but really understanding the tie between mindset and health.
Cool. Well, Karen, you couldn't have possibly given Gina a better segue for her segment. So thank you very much. We'll be back to you toward the end of the show where we're going to be talking about all sorts of provocative ideas and thoughts and ways that we can take charge of our health. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Carol.
Now, it's my pleasure to introduce Gina Eubank. Gina is an integrative health coach, and she helps people reclaim their health. She is also a past guest on the Women's Reinvention Summit. We had so much fun when she was on the show, so I am so looking forward to her segment. So welcome, Gina.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I love the setup that you've got, so I can't wait to see what you've got to show us.
Well, thank you. Basically, I just wanted to start out with, like Karen, I also had a health challenge. I had a brain tumor in 1994, and I had it for 10 years, and I went the Western route. And unsuccessfully, just was getting worse and worse and worse. And I was on multiple meds. I'm a pharmacist. I'm a practicing pharmacist, but I'm definitely not your typical pharmacist, as you'll see as we move forward. But I went the Western route, and I was on numerous drugs, and it just snowballed. And that's what prompted me to think, okay, this is not working for me. What is going to be my strategy for the future? Because they had come up with surgery. That's it. We've exhausted everything. And I thought, that will not be my life. So I discovered these processes through myself, like Karen did as well. So I started doing what I'm about to go over, and within 6 months, the brain tumor was gone. And of course, the doctors thought it was a total miracle, and which I agree. It was a miracle, but I worked really hard for that miracle. I followed the signs. So when I work with patients, what happens is I have them present to me what they've tried. They give me an entire background of their medications that they're on, the challenges that they're experiencing, any blood work that they've done, the results of that, the doctors that they've seen, and how long they've been working on it. And then we talk about the psychology and what's behind it, any traumatic events that's happened in their life or anything like that. And then we discussed what I call vision-based healing, because it's very important for a person to realize why they want to become healthy. It's very important. So then they have something that's driving them forward to be healthy. So after we come up with a plan of what's going on in their life, a baseline, then we look at how to treat it. And through the years, I have discovered, working with many patients, where there's a pattern. And most people, there's 4 things that are going on in their life, that common denominators that I can pretty much start out with. They're the great areas. Chronic inflammation all throughout the body. That one is a huge one. And if you look at inflammation with disease states, and the easy way for me to remember this is you start from the head. It affects your Alzheimer's, your brain, your eyes, dry eyes, your skin, premature aging, asthma, your heart, your hormones, Crohn's disease, irritable bowel, lupus, like Karen brought up, osteoarthritis. I mean, there's so many things that inflammation is the root cause of. And then the other one that is a big factor for people is digestion. Most people are not digesting their food from when they start chewing it. They're not chewing it properly. Then they're not digesting it or assimilating it where their body can actually absorb it. And then as it passes through the body, they're not eliminating it properly. And so then they're reabsorbing those toxins that the body wanted to get rid of. And because it sits in the colon, and you need to get that out. And then the other thing that people need to do, number 3, is consume more raw fruits and vegetables. They're so rich in fruits and enzymes. And then number 4 is water, clean water. So let's start with inflammation, chronic inflammation. The best way to deal with chronic inflammation is to increase your essential fatty acids. That's a biggie, where I start with most patients. I found that to be very effective. And with essential fatty acids, your body does not produce these. So it's something that you have to ingest. And of course, natural is always our first choice, our food sources. And tuna, salmon, the oily fish, those are a great source. Seeds, raw almonds, you always want to go with raw nuts, because with raw nuts, they're in their natural state. When they have been roasted, it changes the chemical structure of the fat, where it goes from being a good fat to a less desirable one. So that's extremely important. Dark leafy green vegetables, those are very rich in your essential fatty acids. Berries, spirulina, all of these are excellent sources of this. And then the other thing that I do is sometimes based on a person's diet and the extreme of their symptoms, then we'll supplement. Because during our first meeting, together we design a plan, because a patient has to realize where they're at in their life and what they're willing to live with and what they want to move forward with. And so they help me decide on how quickly they want to move along this path and how aggressively, and what they're willing to eliminate that might be possible triggers causing this inflammation. And so based on that, then we'll look at putting them on omega-3s, which I have a brand back here. I really like Nordic Naturals, the omega-3s. That's a great essential fatty acid. And there are 3 different kinds of essential fatty acids. There's omega-3, which is the really beneficial. There's omega-6, and there's omega-9. It's very important that all of these are in balance in order for your body and your nervous system and your cells to perform properly. And omega-9s are what we get from like fast food and the roasted oils, and so that's what, and it's prevalent everywhere, like in the packaged foods that Karen was talking about. So this will get you out of balance, and that's why sometimes it requires the supplementing of the omega-3s. We also, what I found with patients will help, there's a supplement, it's a liver gallbladder, and it increases the amount of bile that your gallbladder releases, because your gallbladder is what breaks down your fats. So you want to be able to make sure that you're assimilating your omega-3s properly so you can absorb them and your body can get the true benefits of this product and the building blocks for your cells. The other thing that I sometimes do is put people on, depending on their severity, put them on inflammatone, which is, it's protease enzymes. And that is different than digestive enzymes. It helps get the inflammation down in the body. And I've had really good results with that. Another one is turmeric. People, and there's a couple active forms. C3 is really good, and I have that back here. And I'll have them take the omega-3 and the C3 and the liver gallbladder all together, and then the body assimilates it naturally. I also like patients to help with get the overall inflammation down by starting their morning off with a Vitamix or a NutriBullet, where they have their dark greens in there, they have their raw almonds, they have avocado in there, they have grapefruit, they have lemon, and their greens like the kale and the spinach. And then there's a pea protein that I really like, and they put that in. And it tastes really yummy, and that way they're set up to win for the day. And there's some greens back there, which you can see that it has 20 servings of vegetables, fruits and vegetables in it. It's a really high level product. I love it. This product, it is New Medica Power Greens, and once you put that in, that way the patient, they can mix it up and take it on the go with them, and they're set up for the entire day with their vegetables. And then as the day occurs, if they find themselves in a restaurant where their options are not as great as they would like, then they know that they've had a lot of vegetables for the day. So that's wonderful. So moving forward, then we've taken care of inflammation. Then we have digestion. So we have to address that. Many patients I have gotten off of Nexium through Bragg's apple cider vinegar. And this has been really a game changer for so many people. If you look at the top 20 drugs that are prescribed in the United States, Nexium, Protonix, Prilosec, they're in the top. And, you know, to think that you can cure this and get rid of it with something as simple as Bragg's apple cider vinegar, and you just take a tablespoon and mix it with 8 ounces of water, and you can add a squeeze of a half a lemon, and I have raw honey back here too, and you can put raw, unfiltered, local honey in it and drink that. And to think that you can get off a medication that you've been on for 10 years, 20 years, I mean, really quick, that's extremely powerful. The other thing that I do besides the apple cider vinegar is I found patients respond really well to probiotics, and there's a brand, Strengthia, that I have had excellent luck with the patients. I mean, the results have been stellar. And with that, you're healing the intestine. You're healing the integrity of the colon and the gut, because we want patients to be able to assimilate the nutrients in the food that they consume. And if the colon and the gut is not healthy, the integrity of it, you can develop little cracks in it, for layman's terms here, just little cracks. And what happens is then your food, it's been digested but it hasn't been absorbed, that can leak into your body outside of your colon, and that leads to a very unhealthy condition in the body called leaky gut. So we really address when you swallow your food, chewing it properly. Sometimes we use digestive enzymes depending on what's going on with the patient, and that's if the patient is deficient in digestive enzymes, just to give them a boost. So then it assimilates the food properly, and then we provide fiber, additional fiber, so then it can move through the colon and absorb the excess toxins, and you can get rid of it. Then the next one that we look at is supporting and increasing raw vegetables and raw fruits. And that's what I was talking about, and with setting them up to win with the Vitamix first thing in the morning, because just by increasing your raw fruits and vegetables, you're decreasing your inflammation, you're improving your digestion, and you're giving your body so much live energy. Because if you look at Carillion photography, it's a type of photography that actually takes a picture of something that's live, and it shows the energy that's surrounding it. And so you want to consume foods that have a big aura, that have a lot of energy, because if you consume energy, it's going to give you energy. It's only going to make your energy field bigger. Energy gives energy. It's very simple. So that's a huge one, to increase your raw fruits and vegetables. And then the last one is to get a big source of healthy, clean water. Because I want you to think of water. When you take a shower yourself, and think of if you took a shower with Coke, Pepsi, coffee, orange juice, processed orange juice, not fresh. Think of what a bad hair day and how sticky your whole body would be. That's basically what's happening with what you consume to drink, because you have little workers in your body. And everything you consume, they use to clean and repair and heal everything. So water, think of firemen. They're using the water or the liquid that you provide to rinse off and clean your organs. So they need a clean water source to be able to scrub and cleanse and move all the toxins out of your body and to make everything squeaky clean. So it's...
Sorry, go ahead, Gina.
That's the other thing that I do, is I really recommend with patients to increase their water consumption, and the best way to do that is to measure it, to have a plan when they walk out. I'm a big fan of the water Essentia. This is an alkaline water, and because you can read up, and an alkaline body is a healthy body. An acidic body is not healthy. So there's a balance that you need to be in. Of course, we don't want your body at 9.5. That's too much. But the whole point is we consume so many things that are acidic or exposed to in the environment that this helps put it into balance. And the thing I like about this water is you can just grab it on the go, because so many people, it's inconvenient for them to stay to the regimen. So when I work with a patient, it's very important to look at their entire lifestyle and set them up to win and make them realize what will work for them. And we also evaluate what foods they need to eliminate that might be triggers for them, like corn, gluten, soy, dairy. Those are the big ones that a lot of people, it's triggers where it can increase the inflammation, and we'll eliminate those, and then we'll gradually add one back so we can be very scientific about it and see if that person responds to it. Because some people can tolerate gluten as long as it's organic and it's non-GMO, and they do just fine. Others, it's a deal breaker. Same thing with dairy. Some people, they can handle organic dairy. So it's very customized. Our bodies are very unique. But the four biggies are that everybody, that I've pretty much come across, they need to at least take a closer look at inflammation, digestion, increasing raw fruits and vegetables, and lots of clean water. So
awesome. Thank you very much, Gina. Now we're going to talk to Kelly Mellows. Now, Kelly is a patient of Gina, and Kelly's got a really incredible story. So welcome to the show, Kelly.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Kelly, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story and why you're on the show, actually. So go ahead.
Sure, yeah. I actually found Gina at a perfect time in my life. I was struggling with a few health issues, and I felt that I wasn't really getting to the bottom, the root cause of what they were. So the main issue was that I was suffering from a repetitive motion injury in my right hand, which was absolutely traumatizing to me because I'm a fine artist and a painter, which is my passion, and this left me kind of unable to work in the way that I wanted to. It led to a lot of fear in my career. I just was worried that I wouldn't be able to take on aggressive projects in order to advance and things like that. So at the time that I saw Gina, I had seen several doctors at that point. I had seen my primary care doctor, 2 neurologists, and hand specialists, actually, all who were unable to diagnose what this issue was. So I had this gut feeling that something in my studio was causing the problem. I work around a lot of chemicals, and I explained this to every doctor that I saw, and really the idea was dismissed. So I found myself getting steroid injections, physical therapy, and kind of following the Western regimen. None of it was working, and I had this gut feeling that we weren't getting to the bottom of it. So that's really what I was looking to solve. There were a couple of other issues that I wanted to work on as well. One of them, and Gina mentioned this earlier, a lot of people are on this medication. I had been on Nexium for 10 years for acid reflux. Also had a gut feeling this is something that I really didn't need to be on, but wasn't sure how to get off of, and was suffering from dry eyes and a few other symptoms. So,
cool. Now, with your arm or your hand, how much pain were you in? Like, were you okay, or were you like completely debilitated? That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah, good question. Actually, I was completely debilitated at first. I was unable to use my right hand at all, so I ended up teaching myself to use my left hand for an entire year while my right hand healed. Then when I gained reuse of my right hand, it actually wasn't full use. I was working under great amounts of numbness and pain. Sometimes I would drop my pencil or paintbrush, and I just wasn't healing from this thing. This is something that went on for about 3 years before seeing Gina.
Now, what were the neurologists telling you?
I was getting anything from neuritis to shoulder inflammation, just kind of blanket terms, really not getting to the bottom of it. Really, the test showed that nothing was terribly abnormal, so there wasn't a specific issue to be addressed, and really, like I said, just feared that there was some sort of chemical issue that was being unaddressed. Just had a really strong feeling about that was being dismissed. Again, just not really getting to the bottom of it. So,
were you finding that they weren't really listening to you?
Yeah, I actually did find that they were not listening to me. In fact, one of my friends who's a painter, she said, look, hey, none of the doctors know what we really do. Just tell them you paint cars, because you can say that in 1 minute. What you say takes 5 minutes. That's the problem. So that's honestly what was happening. Was that the answer about what chemicals I work around was longer than 5 minutes, so I was getting cut off at about 2.
Oh, okay. And did they ever explore anything other than what they know? I mean, I know neurologists are wonderful people, and I'm not putting them down.
Yeah.
Are they creative or no?
Good question. Obviously, all these doctors were amazing doctors that I saw. Unfortunately, I don't feel like the whole picture was being looked at. The diet was never addressed. What are you eating? What are you putting in your body? And like I said, even the chemical issue wasn't explored at length. So really didn't feel like we were looking at the whole picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a friend who's very much like you, Kelly. She's spent quite a few years going from hand surgeon to neurologist to this doctor to that doctor. I know the frustration that she's going through, and so I have a sense of what you went through before you met Gina. So what happened when you met Gina?
When I met Gina, we had an initial phone call, and it was during this time. This is really interesting because I had not mentioned that I work around chemicals or anything like this. She really had some of my test results over the course of a couple of years, and just really the things that I wanted to work on. So within 5 minutes of our first call, she said, I want to tell you I have a suspicion that your problems are really being caused by a chemical exposure. And it was sort of like, ding, 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 where have you been all my life? So she, I explained to her that this is something that I had thought for years and was bringing up, and it had been dismissed. So at that time, she sort of made some recommendations for my diet, and we really talked about eliminating toxins in my environment and a few other recommendations like this. I have to say, talking to a painter and having them blow up their entire working process is not something that's going to happen on the first call. I was very hesitant to do that because my work is the most important thing to me. So I'm very concerned about the quality of my product, and I wasn't really ready to go there to eliminate everything in my studio yet. So I took several other of her recommendations. I made some dietary changes, started in on the supplements that she recommended. And really the big one was, she mentioned this earlier, I had been on Nexium for 10 years. She recommended simple apple cider vinegar and lemon a couple of times a day, and I started doing this, and within 1 week I was off of Nexium completely with absolutely no symptoms, feeling better than I had ever before. So to me that was unbelievably simple to do, and I had almost overcomplicated the issue. I really, when someone recommends apple cider vinegar versus a potent drug, you in your mind think there's absolutely no way this could work. And so she sort of with that success, blew up all limiting beliefs I had about what's possible. So that particular success kind of gave me the confidence to make some of the more aggressive changes that she had suggested. So I moved forward and did things like I started researching what chemicals or what non-chemicals I could use in my studio, what natural ingredients I could use to replace some of the chemicals that I had been using, and went and did this. And within 3 weeks, honestly, the symptoms in my hand and shoulder started to dissipate.
Wow.
It was unbelievable, unbelievable.
So we're sorry, I could talk to you all day. We're running out of time though, but can you show us, I think you've got something that you would like to show us that represents the success you've had with working with Gina. So would you like to show us that?
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, okay, this is one of my latest paintings, actually. This is a painting of my husband here. It's called Muse's Muse. So
And what's so special about this painting, Kelly?
Actually, this painting has done well in a couple of competitions lately, and well, let's talk about the content of the painting. Special about it's my husband, and he plays the piano, and he inspires me as much as I inspire him. So that's where the title comes from. But recently, doing really well in an international competition, so very proud of that.
And which hand did you use to paint this?
Oh my God.
That's where
My right hand with no braids. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, so that's why we've got the painting on there, because it just shows how far Kelly has come with making those changes to her diet. So thank you very much, Kelly. Now we're going to bring everyone in together, and we're going to have a powwow, and we're going to talk about, we'll start with you, Karen. Listening to Kelly's story, what are your thoughts, and do you have anything that you would like to add?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I had mentioned earlier is the toxicities. And Kelly brought up a great example. I know that years ago, when I first started encountering that with patients myself, looking at the environment is something that is missed by many physicians. I had a patient who was a house cleaner. She ran a business, and she was using traditional chemicals. And ultimately, from having migraine headaches and joint problems, by pulling her off of the chemicals and having her go to all natural, whether it's using apple cider vinegar for cleaning or soda powder, those things allowed her to not only do her job, but also to own her health again. And environmental toxins, especially in modern day age, are rampant. I mean, whether it's how we clean the rugs, I mean, now animals are suffering from it, children are suffering from it, and we don't realize how our environment is polluting us, because our skin, being the largest organ, absorbs things as well as nutrition, what we put in our body. So someone who has the opportunity to work with chemicals, or has the necessity, like Kelly, or like at the time my patient, they really have to pay attention. And kudos, first of all, for Gina for actually having the open mind and looking at those avenues, because so many miss them.
Yeah. Gina, do you want to add to Kelly's story?
I really appreciated Kelly's willingness to take action, because I tell her she was like the perfect patient, because, you know, in the beginning I gave her suggestions and she took action. Yes, she wasn't willing immediately to, as she put it, blow up her studio, but she took action, and, you know, she immediately saw the results with the Nexium, and which was just incredible and a huge win. And I found working with patients that if they'll take action and we can just chunk it off one success at a time, and they can see it, you know, then they'll gain momentum. It's like learning to walk all over again, and then all of a sudden you're running. And that's what's happened with Kelly. And now she realizes how to manage her own health, because that's the whole purpose. Is it's not to make somebody dependent on a health coach or dependent on me. It's because they're with themselves every day and they make choices all day long. And now Kelly, through us working together, we've looked at her life and we've realized how to set herself up to win, and what her daily life and her social life is like. And she goes to parties, and she has a very active life. And so I just appreciate how she's figured out on her own, with a little coaching, how to navigate this and have just this full, fabulous life and be a finalist in this extremely prestigious art competition. I'm just uber proud of her. The results are coming in May, so everybody send her lots of prayers and mojo that she wins, because she's amazing. I think we'll see her in a museum someday. So that's big kudos to you. Thank you so much, Kelly, for being an awesome patient.
So I'm Canadian. I just said sorry, so that probably gives it away. But here in Canada, we don't see as many drugs being marketed everywhere. When I go to the States and I turn on the TV and all I see is drug commercial after drug commercial about problems about this, and I actually turn the TV off, and the last few trips I've made, I haven't even turned the TV on because it's so depressing between the news and the drug commercials. So what are the most common drugs that people are put on that they could possibly come off with proper coaching and assistance? Because, of course, you never want to just stop your drugs. So, Karen, Gina, who wants to pipe in?
So one of the things in the last sentence that you mentioned, Carol, is extremely important. I've had, in over 22 years of practice, I've had many patients who've come off medication, whether it's the daily aspirin that they were recommended to take, all the way to patients that have come off their diabetic medication, thyroid medication, etc. And that being said, as a natural health care provider who does not subscribe drugs, as a chiropractor, I have no right to take them off the drugs or put them on the drugs. And the point is, in understanding the body's ability to heal, what ends up happening as the patients are getting better, I recommend to them that they consult, obviously, with their physician. But I have in my office a big 5-gallon water bin that is filled with drugs that they throw out because of the fact that they've gotten to that point that when Gina so beautifully mentioned earlier about the fact that they're with themselves 24/7, and our job as healthcare providers is to empower them to take charge of their life, to make healthy decisions in what they put in or in what they keep out. And so whether it is mindset, whether it's physical nutrition or mind nutrition, those things are key in allowing us to thrive health-wise. And that's the path that when I coach my clients and when I work with my chiropractic patients, I'll lead them on. Because ultimately, my job is to let them know what the pros and the cons are and what they can do to change it should they choose.
Okay, great. Thanks, Karen. And Gina?
Because I'm still practicing as a pharmacist, and the way I look at medications is that it's strictly to get somebody out of crisis mode, because not everybody is willing to take these steps. They're not quite ready. So the top drugs that I would really evaluate if I were on them and look at talking to a practitioner, the biggies, definitely the Nexium, the ones for the GERD, the stomach. That is a huge one. If you're having difficulty sleeping, insomnia, America is not sleeping. The world is not sleeping. And that one you can get people off sleeping pills. I've done it numerous times. So many times. Hormone imbalances, that's another one that can be, fixed over time. Diabetes, type 2. Many times diabetes can be fixed with lifestyle, diet, exercise. High blood pressure, that's a huge one. Depression can even be, there's supplements, there's lifestyle, there's mindset change, there's exercising. They've done studies with exercising that 8 out of 10 people, if they start exercising, the depression goes away. But the challenge is the people can't get off the couch because they're so depressed. Mm-hmm. So you've got to provide that bridge to help people between the beginning to get to the end result. And that's what I really try to work with my patients, is providing that bridge from point A to get them across the finish line, and the support and no judgment. Sometimes people, they start out on drugs, and it doesn't need to be drugs are bad. Not all drugs are bad. They're a starting point. Do I think people need to be on drugs forever? No. The whole point is to get people off medication as quickly as possible, or get them on the lowest dose possible that is right for them based on their journey here in the world and the decisions they're willing to make. So I don't judge people. I just want to empower them to make the right choices throughout the day. But please look at the medications that you're on and talk to somebody, a natural person or somebody that is integrative, that bridges both worlds and doesn't judge it, that can help you move to where you're on less medication to possibly no medication and increase your vitality and your passion for life and enjoyment.
Now, there's a lot of people, a lot of children that are put on drugs from because, you know, I don't know, because the teachers can't control them. Did I say that out loud? Yes, I did.
Exactly, and you know, that's another thing that, you know, what used to be embraced with children, you know, when they'd run around outside and be creative and build all sorts of forts and things like that, now there's this little box that people want children to fit in. And so much of it, honestly, I found through working with patients is diet related and not being able to express themselves properly. They're doing video games, they're not getting out, they're not moving, they're not as active with sports, they're socially not interacting. But so many children, if you get them off the sugar, the processed food, the artificial colors, flavors, just get them on the basics, back to basics, the leave it to beaver life, you know, where mom actually makes something fresh for breakfast. You know, there's so many patients now where the mom will make them, you know, a NutriBullet or something and puts the extra raw honey in there or whatever, the berries, whatever you need to put in there to make sure that they're getting their greens down. And the essential fatty acids for the brain and niacin. They've done tremendous studies with niacin and depression and ADHD and your essential fatty acids. So yes, it breaks my heart to see the amount of medications that children are put on, and that is a big passionate area for me, and I love to work with people to help move them towards minimizing and eventually getting the children off this medication.
Yeah, I hear you, Gina. It's just, I mean, kids need to be kids. There is a reason why they're developmentally the way they are when they're children, and I agree with you completely. They need to be able to play outside. They need to be creative. I was just, while you were talking, thinking about my daughter and her friend. They would go out in the backyard and make a fort for the fairies. And, you know, we just would spend all day making a fairy fort and doing stuff like wildly creative.
Isn't that beautiful?
Carol.
Girls.
Carol.
Yes, Karen, go ahead.
Some of the work that I do, and Gina had touched upon that, some of the work that I do with my patients that come in with these health issues, whether it's diabetes, whether it's sleep issues, whether it's osteoporosis, whether it's thyroid issues, or just general stress, is adrenal work. And I mentioned earlier when I talked about stress, I talked about the fact that there's different levels in which our body responds to stress. There's the physical, which will basically occur on both the neurological level as well as the chemical level, and there's the emotional. And so generally through the coaching, when I work with them on the neuroemotional, through the chiropractic side, I work with them on the neurochemical. And by doing simple saliva testing the right way, we have the ability to detect what is happening with their adrenals and how they're reacting to stress. And long-term chronic stress and adrenal fatigue are precursors for adult onset diabetes, for thyroid problems, for insomnia, for osteoporosis. So by nurturing the body and allowing us to live with a state of balance and harmony without living at that stress level, that's when patients can actually come off those medications. And I'm sure that as a pharmacist that Gina has seen this, how many people will come in where they have depression and insomnia and they're put on Ambien and on Prozac on the other side, and both those medications actually counter each other. Or talking about children and Ritalin. Ritalin is a class 2 narcotic. It is just like crack cocaine, and it's actually an elevator. And aside from the side effects that I've seen in children, it will also cause weight issues, sleep issues, etc. And those are medications that alter our reality. So now we have a society that's actually not living in the real world, but living on a medicated side. And so through the lifestyle modifications, through taking care of the adrenals, and through adjusting their nerve system, they have the ability to reduce the stress and go back to a state of ease rather than dis-ease, which is when the general physician can take them off the medication.
Cool. You know, just when you were saying that, Karen, it just, like, it breaks my heart how we're just drugging kids. Just, anyways, we will, what will we talk about now?
One more thing I'd like to bring up, because I agree with Karen as far as the adrenal fatigue and how when your adrenals are fatigued, your cortisol rate goes up. And what that means in layman terms is basically think of your car and the odometer. You're redlining your car, your body. And one of the easiest ways you can help sweep the cortisol out of your body is through exercise. And this can be just a simple stroll in the evening or just movement. You can bounce on a Pilates ball, you can get on a rebounder, you can just turn on the music and dance. So it doesn't need to be something formal in order for you to take the first step. Because I think the hardest part for a lot of people is taking the first step. And of course, meditation and just quieting the mind, just lying down and just putting on some beautiful music and just shutting your eyes, and you can say a mantra to yourself or a prayer, whatever works for you. But the whole point is going internal and being grateful, truly plugging into what you're grateful in your life, you know, your family, your loved ones, and that helps reduce your rev rates. So those are two easy steps I have people take immediately. And what I have found personally for myself that I can do at any point in my day is I can go move or go in the restroom and jump up and down if need be and hide, you know, to change my state. I can, you know, do internally in my mind a gratitude list. And so just I encourage people just to try those two little steps to see if they can't reduce that cortisol, and then of course seek out somebody to help them further along this journey.
Oh, well, thank you, gals, so much. Kelly, you too. Sorry I didn't bring you back.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
I know that we can have many discussions on this, and I look forward to having you both back on the show. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I always ask my guests if they have a gift for the audience, and I apologize because I don't remember asking you in advance this time. Do either of you have something that the audience may benefit from?
Yes, I do, actually. Since we are talking about health today, I have a gift of health, which is it's an ebook, a free ebook, that is called Unlock Your Ultimate Potential in Health, and it does cover the 4 keys that we discussed, that I talked about earlier during the show. And it's as simple as going onto the website, is on my homepage, and the website is www.drkarenjacobson.com, and for those that are looking, it's actually on the lower third, spelled out DR, no dot.
Great, thank you, Karen.
I also have a free ebook, and it goes along with what I was discussing today, and it's the 21-day challenge to reinvent your health, and it outlines the basic steps and what to have for breakfast and lunch and dinner and what to eliminate to move yourself forward on this journey that we talked about. So if you go to GinaEubankCoaching.com, which is also on the lower part of my screen if you're watching this, and then you'll go to the 21-day challenge, and there's an ebook there, and I look forward to hearing success stories or challenges or the reality of it all. I encourage you to type in and respond to me, please.
Well, thank you both very, very much. So there you have it, another fantastic episode of the Reinvention Show. I invite everyone, if you haven't already, to go to thereinventionshow.com and sign up. Put your name and your email in, and then you will receive the gifts and the links and advance notification of what the next show is all about. And as always, we love to hear your comments. So please put them in the box below the video that you see, whether it's on YouTube or whether it's on the show website. So next week, we'll have another fantastic episode of the Reinvention Show live at 9 o'clock in the morning on the West Coast. Until then, thank you very much to my guests. Big hugs. Bye now.